Have you ever stopped to think that among all the foods available in nature, there may be a simple, accessible, and natural fruit capable of slowing down one of the most common problems affecting men over 50? We are talking about prostate growth, a condition that, although common, is surrounded by discomfort, fear, and often silence. What if I told you that a fruit could be a true ally in this process? Not one among many, but the only fruit with clear and consistent scientific evidence that it can help slow prostate growth. That fruit is the tomato. Yes, the tomato, so common on our plates, contains a true treasure of nature, lycopene. This powerful antioxidant is responsible for the tomato's intense red color, but its benefits go far beyond its appearance. Lycopene has a direct effect on prostate health, acting as an anti-inflammatory and cell protector. For men who want to age more healthily, with less risk of disease and a better quality of life, regular consumption of tomatoes can be a powerful, simple, and effective strategy. The reason why tomatoes stand out among so many other fruits is not only because of lycopene, but also because of the synergistic combination of nutrients they contain. In addition to lycopene, tomatoes are rich in vitamin C, vitamin A, potassium, and folic acid. This combination creates a natural shield against free radicals, substances that, when in excess in the body, cause damage to cell DNA and accelerate inflammatory processes. And as we all know, chronic inflammation is one of the main causes of abnormal prostate growth with advancing age. What makes tomatoes even more special is their versatility. They can be eaten raw, cooked in sauce, juice, or even roasted. And interestingly, contrary to what many people think, cooking increases the bioavailability of lycopene, meaning it facilitates its absorption by the body. This means that a simple homemade tomato sauce can be even more effective in protecting the prostate than raw tomatoes. Isn't it wonderful to think that a plate of pasta with natural sauce, rice with tomatoes, or even a well-prepared juice can be a real preventive treatment? But why does lycopene work so effectively on the prostate? Studies indicate that it helps inhibit the action of certain hormones involved in prostate growth, such as dihydrotestosterone, DHT. This hormone, derived from testosterone, is one of the main causes of benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH, a condition that affects a large proportion of men over the age of 50. DHT stimulates an increase in the number of cells in the prostate, which leads to its growth and uncomfortable symptoms: difficulty urinating, constant urge to go to the bathroom, weak urine stream, and feeling of incomplete bladder emptying. In addition, lycopene has anti-proliferative properties, meaning that it inhibits the uncontrolled multiplication of prostate cells, which is essential in preventing both benign growth and more serious changes, such as prostate cancer. Research conducted in several countries, including the United States, has shown that men with high levels of lycopene in their blood had a lower risk of developing prostate cancer compared to those with low levels. These studies reinforce the protective role of tomatoes as a true ally of men's health. Another key point is that tomatoes are an affordable food. Unlike expensive supplements or invasive treatments, they can be easily included in anyone's diet, anywhere in Brazil or the world. In addition, they are a natural food with no side effects, as long as they are consumed as part of a balanced diet. Their pleasant taste and presence in many typical dishes mean that including them in your diet is not a sacrifice, but a smart and enjoyable choice. Tomatoes stand out as the only fruit with proven action in preventing prostate growth, not only because of their main compound lycopene, but because of their entire set of nutrients and medicinal properties. They are a simple, natural, and powerful choice that every man should consider carefully starting at age 40, especially after age 50. In a world where so many promises are made in the name of health, it is comforting to know that the answer may literally be on your plate every day. In recent years, scientific interest in functional foods, those that not only nourish but also prevent disease, has grown significantly. And one of the topics that has attracted the most attention among doctors, nutritionists, and researchers is the relationship between the consumption of certain foods and prostate health. Amid so many studies, a humble fruit present on tables around the world has stood out in an impressive way: the tomato, rich in lycopene. But this fame is not just popular, it is backed by a solid scientific foundation built over decades. One of the most emblematic studies in this field was conducted by the Harvard School of Public Health in the United States. Published in the renowned Journal of the National Cancer Institute, this study followed more than 47,000 men over several years, assessing their dietary habits and the incidence of prostate cancer. The result was clear and surprising. Men who consumed higher amounts of lycopene-rich foods, especially tomatoes and tomato products, had up to a 35% lower risk of developing prostate cancer compared to those who consumed lower amounts. This number is significant and shows unequivocally that there is a direct link between tomato consumption and prostate protection. Another study, published in Cancer Epidemiology, Biomarkers and Prevention, also reinforced this association. In it, researchers analyzed blood samples from men diagnosed with prostate cancer and compared them with circulating lycopene levels. They found that individuals with higher blood lycopene levels had less aggressive tumors and a better prognosis. This data is crucial because it shows shows that not only can the presence of lycopene in the body reduce the risk of developing the disease, but it can also positively influence tumor behavior if it does arise. In addition, a meta-analysis, a type of study that combines data from several previous studies to form a more robust and comprehensive view, published in PALOS 1, reviewed more than 20 studies on the topic. The conclusion was the same. There is a statistically significant association between lycopene consumption and a reduced risk of prostate cancer. More than an isolated finding, this evidence reinforces that lycopene is not just a supporting actor in the diet, but a true protagonist in prostate prevention. But we're not just talking about cancer. Studies also show that lycopene plays a key role in the prevention and control of benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH, the non-cancerous growth of the prostate, which affects the quality of life of millions of men worldwide. Research conducted in Europe and Asia has shown that regular consumption of lycopene can help reduce enlarged prostate volume, improve urinary flow, and relieve symptoms such as frequent urination during the night. One such study, published in the journal Urology, showed that men who took lycopene supplements for 6 months had a significant reduction in prostate size and improvement in urinary symptoms compared to the placebo group. It is important to note that science has also been looking at how tomatoes are consumed and their effects on lycopene absorption. A study by the University of Parma in Italy showed that lycopene is better absorbed when tomatoes are cooked and consumed with olive oil. This is because heat breaks down the cell walls of tomatoes, releasing lycopene, and olive oil, being a good fat, facilitates its intestinal absorption. Thus, simple dishes such as homemade tomato sauce sautéed in olive oil are not only delicious, they are also true natural remedies. The scientific community also points out that lycopene acts by modulating inflammatory and hormonal processes, reducing the production of substances such as dihydrotestosterone, DHT, which is one of the main substances responsible for prostate growth. In laboratory tests, lycopene has demonstrated the ability to inhibit the proliferation of prostate cells and even induce the death of abnormal cells, thus contributing to a more balanced and less disease-prone cellular environment. Given so much evidence, it is increasingly clear that tomatoes should not be underestimated. They may seem simple, but science has shown that they carry enormous preventive potential, and the beauty of it all is that we are not talking about a rare, expensive, or inaccessible substance. Quite the contrary, it is a popular, versatile food that can be easily incorporated into the daily life of any man, of any social class, anywhere in the world. In a world where so many people seek magic solutions in capsules, chemical formulas, or expensive procedures, it is comforting and even revolutionary to know that the answer may lie in something as everyday as a ripe tomato. And this is not a matter of belief or popular tradition. It is science, research, and proof. The knowledge is there, accessible, just waiting for each man to take responsibility for his own health in a more conscious, natural, and preventive way. Because at the end of the day, science is showing that what we put on our plates today can determine the quality of life we will have tomorrow. Knowing that tomatoes are a powerful natural weapon against prostate growth is valuable knowledge in itself. But just as important as knowing what to eat is understanding how to eat it. After all, how you prepare it, how often you eat it, how you combine it with other foods, and even when you eat it, can directly influence the absorption of its nutrients, especially when we're talking about compounds like lycopene, which is key to this whole process. So if you're really interested in protecting your prostate health effectively, paying attention to the details can make all the difference. First, it is essential to understand that raw tomatoes and cooked tomatoes offer different benefits, and both have their value. Raw tomatoes are a good source of vitamin C, fiber, and other heat-sensitive micronutrients. However, lycopene, the antioxidant responsible for the greatest effects on the prostate, becomes more bioavailable when tomatoes are subjected to heat. In other words, when cooked, tomatoes release more lycopene from their interior, allowing the body to absorb it more easily. This means that a simple tomato salad is healthy, but a well-prepared homemade sauce can be even more powerful when it comes to prostate health. And what exactly does well-prepared mean? Science has shown that lycopene is a fat-soluble substance, meaning it needs the presence of fat to be properly absorbed by the intestine. Therefore, the best way to prepare tomatoes for therapeutic purposes is to cook them with extra virgin olive oil, a healthy fat packed with other benefits for the heart, brain, and circulation. When tomatoes and olive oil are cooked together over low heat, they create a true functional alchemy. Homemade tomato sauces, slowly sautéed with olive oil and natural seasonings such as garlic and onion, become true elixirs for men's health. Simple, tasty, and extremely effective. Another crucial point is frequency. Eating tomatoes once a week can help, but it's regularity that makes the real difference. The most relevant studies on lycopene and the prostate show benefits in populations that consume tomatoes consistently, often daily or at least 4 to 5 times a week. This is because lycopene gradually accumulates in the tissues, especially in the prostate, as we have already seen. So, the more regular the intake, the greater this protective reserve in the body will be. Prevention is not about peaks, but consistency. Eating well one week and forgetting about it the next does not have the same effect as maintaining a solid, repeated habit that is part of your routine, such as brushing your teeth or sleeping well. There is also the issue of food combinations. In addition to olive oil, the lycopene present in tomatoes can have its action enhanced when consumed with other foods rich in antioxidants, such as dark green vegetables, spinach, kale, broccoli, red fruits, strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, and seeds such as chia and flaxseed. This is because these foods work in synergy, that is, they mutually enhance the antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects in the body. Therefore, a diet rich in colors, reds, greens, purples, is a smart and enjoyable strategy for those who want to strengthen the health of their prostate and body as a whole. What about when to eat them? Although there are no strict rules about this, some practical observations can be made. Eating foods rich in lycopene during lunch or dinner, when there is usually more fat present in the meal, may promote its absorption. On the other hand, if you're going to drink tomato juice, which is a very interesting option, it is worth preparing it with a drizzle of olive oil or combining it with a meal that contains some source of healthy fat, such as avocado or nuts. Another detail that often goes unnoticed is the quality of the tomatoes used. Tomatoes grown organically or in less aggressive farming systems tend to have higher lycopene concentrations and fewer pesticide residues. This means that whenever possible, choosing fresh, ripe tomatoes from a good source is a way to maximize their benefits and minimize the intake of toxic substances that, in turn, can have the opposite effect, generating oxidative stress and damaging the prostate. The same goes for ready-made industrialized sauces. Most of them contain preservatives, excess sodium, sugar, and poor quality fat, ingredients that negate the potential benefits of tomatoes. So the recommendation is simple. Make your own sauce. It's healthier, cheaper, and safer. When we talk about tomatoes and their effect on the prostate, we tend to focus exclusively on that aspect. After all, the power of lycopene in slowing prostate growth is already quite an achievement. But the truth is that tomatoes offer much more. They are not just a protector of the prostate, they are a true friend of men's health as a whole, especially in the mature stage of life, when the body begins to feel the cumulative effects of decades of habits, good or bad. And it is precisely at this stage that nature reveals itself to be even wiser, offering simple foods such as tomatoes, which are true natural complexes of well-being. Let's start with the heart, that silent engine that beats non-stop and often only receives attention when it shows signs that something is wrong. Tomatoes, thanks to their richness in antioxidants such as the aforementioned lycopene and vitamin C, have a direct impact on cardiovascular health. These antioxidants help reduce LDL, bad cholesterol, and protect arteries from the buildup of fatty plaques, which can lead to diseases such as heart attack and stroke. In addition, tomatoes contain potassium, a mineral essential for blood pressure control, and we know that hypertension and cardiovascular problems go hand in hand with age, so including tomatoes regularly in your diet is also good for your heart and longevity. Another important point, especially for men over 50, is skin and eye health. With advancing age, it is natural for the skin to lose elasticity and firmness, and the eyes begin to suffer from macular degeneration, one of the leading causes of vision loss in the elderly. Lycopene, once again, comes into play as a protector against damage caused by sun exposure and cellular aging. Studies indicate that men with high levels of lycopene in their blood have fewer wrinkles, blemishes, and signs of premature aging, as well as a lower risk of age-related eye diseases. It's as if tomatoes take care of what's inside, such as the prostate, but also what's outside, the skin, the eyes, the image that men project to the world. And when it comes to metabolism and weight control, tomatoes continue to show their strength. They are a low-calorie, high nutritional value food, making them excellent for those seeking to control their weight without sacrificing flavor or enjoyment at the table. Rich in water and fiber, tomatoes promote satiety, aid digestion, and regulate intestinal function, something that is often overlooked but has a direct impact on energy levels, immunity, and even mood. Men who consume tomatoes regularly tend to have a healthier digestive system, a lower risk of constipation, and a better balance of gut microbiota, which, as we already know, influences even hormone production and the immune system. Speaking of immunity, another lesser-known but extremely relevant benefit is the impact of tomatoes on the body's natural defenses. Because they contain vitamins A and C and phenolic compounds compounds, tomatoes stimulate the production of immune cells, fight silent inflammation, and help the body better resist viruses, bacteria, and other aggressive agents. In times of concern about infections and respiratory diseases, having a strong immune system is a real biological shield, and tomatoes can be part of that natural armor. We must not forget the emotional and mental benefits that tomatoes offer indirectly. Antioxidant foods such as tomatoes help fight oxidative stress in the brain, which is linked to cognitive decline, memory loss, and even diseases such as Alzheimer's and depression. Although it is not a miracle cure, frequent consumption is part of a dietary strategy that promotes mental clarity, focus, and emotional stability, fundamental aspects for mature men who want to age with dignity, autonomy, and quality of life. Some even talk about tomatoes as a food that promotes sexual vitality, and this is not far from the truth. By improving blood circulation, protecting blood vessels, and balancing hormone levels, tomatoes indirectly contribute to better sexual response. After all, sexual health is linked to vascular health, hormonal balance, and emotional well-being, and tomatoes touch on all these points at once, like a silent symphony of benefits. While tomatoes are a powerful ally in the fight for prostate health, there are foods that do exactly the opposite. They silently sabotage this organ that is so sensitive and vital to the male body. What we put on our plates every day not only nourishes our bodies, but also directly influences hormonal balance, internal inflammation, cell quality, and even our mood and disposition. When it comes to the prostate, prevention depends not only on what you consume, but also, and perhaps more importantly, on what you avoid. We need to start by talking about saturated and trans fats, which are present in most ultra-processed foods, snacks, filled cookies, fast food, processed meats such as sausage, ham, and bologna, as well as many frozen, ready-to-eat products. When consumed in excess, these fats cause chronic inflammation in the body. And as we already know, inflammation is one of the main causes of abnormal prostate growth, whether in the form of benign hyperplasia or, in more severe cases, in cell mutation processes that can lead to cancer. In addition, these fats are directly linked to the accumulation of visceral fat, the fat that lies between the organs, a factor that further aggravates hormonal imbalance and raises estrogen levels in the male body, which also promotes changes in the prostate. Another silent enemy is excess red meat and processed meats. Scientific studies have already shown that diets rich in red meat, especially when grilled, fried, or roasted at very high temperatures, are associated with an increased risk of prostate disease. This is because during preparation at high temperatures, chemical compounds called heterocyclic amines are formed, which have a proven carcinogenic effect. In addition, processed meats such as sausages, bacon, and salami contain high levels of sodium, nitrates, and chemical preservatives, which are toxic to cellular health. For men who want to take care of their prostate, reducing red meat consumption to 2 to 3 times a week and avoiding processed meats altogether is a simple and powerful step. Excess dairy also deserves attention. Although milk and dairy products play an important role in human nutrition, studies show that excessive consumption of dairy products, especially whole and ultra-processed ones, may increase the risk of prostate cancer. One reason is the high calcium content, which in excess can negatively interfere with the regulation of vitamin D, a nutrient essential for cell protection. In addition, low-quality industrialized dairy products often contain hormones used in animal feed, which are absorbed by consumers, affecting male hormonal balance. Refined sugar is another villain that deserves mention. Foods high in sugar, such as soft drinks, processed sweets, ready-made cakes, and artificial ice cream, cause spikes in blood glucose that, in the long term, disrupt metabolism, increase insulin resistance, and promote an inflammatory environment in the body. This type of environment is extremely conducive to the disorderly growth of prostate cells. In addition, excess sugar promotes weight gain and abdominal obesity, two factors directly associated with worsening prostate health. Drastically reducing your consumption of refined sugar and opting for natural fruits, healthy sweeteners such as stevia, or small amounts of pure honey is a conscious way to preserve your health. And we cannot fail to mention excessive alcohol, which is often trivialized socially but has devastating effects when consumed regularly and in large quantities. Alcohol causes liver overload, chronic dehydration, and hormonal changes, reducing testosterone levels and increasing estrogen levels, exactly the hormonal combination that promotes prostate growth. In addition, excessive alcohol impairs sleep, affects the quality of the immune system, and increases the risk of systemic inflammation. It is important to note that this does not mean eliminating alcohol completely, but rather practicing conscious, moderate consumption on specific occasions, and always preferring options that are less aggressive to the body, such as red wine in small quantities, which can even have antioxidant effects. Another harmful habit, although not exactly likely a food is excess salt in the diet. Foods high in sodium, such as canned foods, ready-made broths, industrialized seasonings, and preserves, increase fluid retention and overload the kidneys and bladder. This can worsen urinary symptoms associated with an enlarged prostate, such as urgency to urinate, weak flow, and a feeling of incomplete emptying. Reducing salt and seasoning foods with natural herbs, lemon, garlic, and olive oil is a simple measure that can have a big impact on urinary health. Protecting the prostate is not just a matter of adding beneficial foods such as tomatoes to your diet, but also of eliminating or drastically reducing those that contribute to inflammation, hormonal imbalance, and cellular stress. True health comes from balance, and mature men who want to age with vitality, autonomy, and quality of life need to understand that every meal is a choice, an opportunity to build health or plant the seeds of future problems. By eliminating or reducing inflammatory, ultra-processed, and unbalanced foods, you not only protect your prostate, but you honor your body, your history, and your future.